Okay, so coordinating or making sure there's an indoor space for stuff. And folks really need to participate here. I know your arms are getting tired from doing this, but there's only a few more. So indoor space. How do people feel about that? We need to see your level of support. All right. Creating rendezvous points so that we can reconvene somehow together. And again, cleaning up the camp, especially taking notice of drugs and violence and things like that and taking care of those issues. How do people feel about that? Okay, great. We just have 2 more.
Hello, I just want to remind everybody that a movement moves. We've been in this park for a long time. We live like a tribal community. And way back in the day, tribal communities were nomadic. And there was a good reason they were nomadic, so that they didn't do damage to the environment. The longer that people stay in this park, the more damage will be done to the park. But that doesn't mean that if we move or go somewhere else, that we've disbanded or that we've stopped doing what we're doing. And if for any reason we can't hold the park and can't be in it, I, for one, highly suggest, since it's so close and everybody's already talked about it so much, that at least one of those splinter groups takes the waterfront.
So we have the idea of one of the splinter groups taking the waterfront park. How do people feel about that? And was there another idea that is that the main one? Okay, great. So last report back. Oh no, there's one more after that.
Hello. So, hola a todos. So, we all agreed to do a big push for outreach tomorrow for Southern marches and support to the occupation the midnight Saturday. So, you know, in some ideas to do that are to reach unions that haven't been invited and homeless organizations, and also I'm sorry to outreach the faith community that we haven't really worked, and also to outreach the police as individuals. And another thing was to have a lot of coffee after midnight for the general community. Another idea was to have education forums around town where we can invite the people to help us stay in this park. And one thing I want to read to everyone is one of our members was said is that the reason we have been able to hold these parks for a month is because 10,000 people came out on October 6th. And I believe that if we do that again, we can still keep in this park. We just need the numbers, and numbers matter. And the last thing I'm gonna say is that the people that is gonna be here Saturday, there's gonna be a film screen about the Zapatistas. They're gonna talk about their strategies and how they work. So the screen is called Viva Mexico. It's gonna be at 6 p.m. and both the address is 1131 Southeast Oak Street, Portland, Oregon. It's sorry. Anybody knows what is the place name? The church of the St. Francis. Yeah, thank you, yeah. So that was it.
Make sure I get all this.
Gracias.
So we had outreach to unions, the homeless, and faith communities. How do people feel about doing that? Yeah. Making sure that there is coffee on the night so we can stay awake. Making sure to invite people to come down here and support us. Reaching out to the police as individuals to support us. Is that it? Did I get them all?
Yeah.
Yep, great. All right, we have our last report back.
I want to introduce the idea of strategic withdrawal. It's not only a military tactic, but a political tactic. And it can be very powerful and successful. It may not be able to defend the park per se, but it does defend the movement as a whole in the future. And when spring comes, people will want to be occupying all kinds of parks. Consider historical development at Dunkirk, when the British rescued those hundreds of thousands of young men on the beaches of Dunkirk, and what that did to inspire the British nation in the coming war. That was strategic withdrawal. You better start considering that as a strategy and a tactic. Thank you.
All right, so how do people feel about that idea of strategic withdrawal? Okay. All right, so those were all of our... there was one that was forgotten from all the groups. What was it?
I had forgotten to mention earlier that we start out with an elk in the main streets, and if we're going to get arrested and the sort, maybe we should consider taking an elk in the main street.
So the idea of taking to the elk in Main Street upon possible arrest. How do people feel about that? Okay, great. Okay, so we've got a long list of things here, and this list of things doesn't do us any good unless we work on implementation pretty much immediately, given the time frame we have. So, what I want to check in on is we had talked about having more of a discussion about post-Saturday plans here tonight. I don't know that we have time for that, and I think we got into some of those ideas here a little bit. So what I would suggest, and I want to see what you think about this, is that we save that discussion for Saturday, during our General Assembly Saturday night, because all this stuff will be in motion at that point, one way or another, and that we spend the rest of tonight breaking into groups to start to enact this stuff, to connect with people that are interested, and we've identified 7 categories, like outreach, like cleaning up, like what are we going to do Saturday night when we have broken the curfew, different categories like that, and we'll break into small groups. So I have a point of process, and then I want to see how people feel about that.
Are we extending?
Are we extending?
The GA duration. The GA duration.
I would suggest, if we're going to break out into small groups, those small groups meet for as long as they need to start to get their plans in action for the next couple of days. We have another point of process.
Supposedly a group of bands are coming to have a concert here at 8 o'clock. So it'll be 1 hour GA.
On Saturday?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. Does someone have a point of information about the bands?
Which bands?
Are there bands coming 8 o'clock on Saturday night?
Yeah, band at 6.
Oh, there's a band at 6. So it'll be over by 7.
And then there's another one at 8.
Okay, we're gonna deal with that problem later. We have another point of process.
Park curfew.
Park curfew
Is in 20 minutes.
is in 20 minutes.
After small groups are done,
After small groups are done,
will the equipment still be here?
will the equipment still be here?
I don't know. It's not my equipment. I don't know. I presume, as has happened in other nights, the equipment is taken down after we're finished with it, and it is taken away. So, how do people feel about that idea of saving, acknowledging we had a little bit of that conversation now, but really on Saturday, having that conversation about what are we doing after Saturday? And then tonight, breaking into small groups and immediately start to connect with one another about implementing all of these great ideas and starting to move forward with them. I just want a temperature check about how people feel about that. So are people into that idea? Are people not into that idea, if you want to do the down twinkles? I'm seeing overwhelming support for that. So what I would ask then is that we break into those different groups. If I could get the list of the different groups here. So what we've done is, if we've heard these things, is we have found 7 kind of clusters that these ideas fit into. And so what we would ask is that people go to the one that interests them, start to talk, and then we'll bring over the list of the different ideas that fit under that group, that kind of cluster that you're going to about outreach, and different ideas of outreach, like on the bus, talking to other friends, doing things like that. Does that sound okay? Okay, so... Okay, do you want to...
Okay, y'all. There's actually 8 groups. One is actions.
What is the slash here?
Sit-ins, like a sit-in at the thing.
Actions or sit-ins on Saturday night. The next is outreach. The next is cleanup.
Job fair.
We have sign making. We have community events leading up to Saturday night and on Saturday day and Saturday night. Storage of supplies. A rendezvous action, like an exit strategy and rendezvous action, and then diversionary tactics. So what I'm going to do is go through those again and assign an area to convene. And the issue was brought up about park curfew. I think that if we all just remain as awesomely peaceable and engaging in our civic duty here as much as possible, that we'll probably find some leniency. Actions and sit-ins for the night of. Actions like marches, bikes and everything, sit-ins the night of. If that's where you feel you can really lend your support over the next couple days, please meet over by the bicycles. Outreach for the next couple days, for tonight, tomorrow, hopefully the bulk of it tomorrow, and Saturday. Throughout the entire city. If that's where you feel that your passions lie, can you meet over by the center tree? Cleanup of the camp. Why don't you meet, not too close to, but around the trash can. Near the trash can, that way. Sign making and messaging with signs. Yeah, I think that's it. Sign making. Can you meet kind of directly in front of me, wherever on the steps or whatever, up there? Community events for the day of. If you want to meet closer to this walkway on the left.
Does that include dance party?
The storage issue of how to store supplies.
And transit them.
And transit them is right over here. A rendezvous plan. Let's put you more this way. And diversionary tactics, let's put you behind the screen. And we need a point of contact for each of these groups that we can put up here so that we can actually start to make, like, provide accountability for the ideas that are being generated so we can implement them and so people have a point person they can connect to. I also want to encourage every one of these groups to consider the committees at camp that are already working on these sorts of issues that you may be able to team up with. We don't want to duplicate work. Our resources are already spread thin. Let's work together. And each group that forms tonight, can you please send send as many of you as possible to the Spokes Council here tomorrow night. And we need spokespersons from your groups to come here at 7 o'clock tomorrow for the Spokes Council. Last thing I'm going to say is, if you're not in a group, why? Get in a group. Help us out. Thank you.